Hello and welcome to the Calmcast, a time to feel calm and think clearly. I'm Claire Downham, the Queen of Calm, a transformational life coach. I was a burnt out head teacher who finally made the journey to calm after years of trying, and I want to prevent you from having to do the same. The Calmcast is a series of short explorations, gently guiding you back to your natural state, which is calm and clarity. Just listen like you would listen to music, with an open mind and curiosity. There's nothing else to do. Now let's relax into today's episode. Hi there. You can't do that. That's what I'm going to talk about today. That thought. We've all had it, haven't we? At some point or another. You can't do that. You can't do that. You're going to look stupid. People are going to judge you. People are going to respond in a way you wouldn't want them to. All those things are possible. And then you make up a story, don't you, around that. And the story gets stronger and stronger to the point where in the end you don't do that thing that you really did want to do, because it looks like there's going to be some damage to you if you do that. And when you start to reflect on this, you may have gone to get some help with this. You may have gone to see some therapist or some counsellor or something like that, or even a coach, to talk about this thought you keep having that you can't do things, and how it's holding you back and stopping you. And you may have even called it self-sabotage. Or perhaps the person you were speaking to did and gave you that idea. And then you might have gone for a route around in the past, trying to find the root cause of that thought. You know, was it something that your mother said, or your father, or your grandma, or granddad, or somebody else in your family? Was it somebody who, was it a teacher, or perhaps even an older sibling, or perhaps it was that bully on the playground, or just another child who said you can't do that, you're not good enough to do that in some way. They may not have even said that, but you may have decided that's exactly what they meant. So it looks really complicated, doesn't it? If that thing that thing has come from the past and created this thought that you're having all the time, that you can't do things, it looks like there's a lot of work to do, doesn't there? Because somehow you've got to change something that happened in the past, or remove the impact of it, or take it away in some way. But it turns out it's not really as complicated as that. When you first hear that voice in your head that says you can't do that, there's a moment where you can make a different decision, where you can see in that moment that it's not true. It's just a thought that's popped into your head. And it really can be that simple. You can't do that. I swipe left on that thought. That's a Tinder reference for those who don't know. I don't see that thought as true. I don't see it as relevant. I'm just going to ignore it. The problem is that we don't often do that, do we? Especially, I think, if we've got the story about where it came from. Oh, there's that thought again. I can't do that thought. Oh, I know why I've got that. It's because those people said it to me when I was younger. And then it seems really, really solid and true and immovable. But there's a few things that are really helpful to know about that. And the first one is that you do not put thinking in your head, and neither do the people in your past. Thought appears. It appears moment by moment. Just like how these words are coming out of my mouth moment by moment, I've got very little to do with that. I'm not thinking about each and every word appearing, they're just appearing. And those thoughts in your head that tell you can't do things, they're the same. They're just appearing. And it turns out you don't have to take them seriously. They're not really yours anyway. They're just passing through you. And that can be really, really helpful to know. So that's the first thing, that this transient nature of thought means that it's not really about you. It's not about you. But as soon as you grasp it, bearing in mind, of course, that once you've had a thought, if you grasp it, you're pulling it back towards you. It's gone otherwise, hasn't it? You know, it's a moment. You can't do that. Gone. It's not the initial thought, you can't do that. It's the thoughts that you attach onto that. The meaning that you make. The fact that you think that means something about you. The idea that you believe that comes from your past and therefore it's not movable. So it's not the thought. It's all the layers of things that we put on top of it that create the problem. And all there is to do here is to know the nature of what's happening inside you. Thought is creating your every moment experience. Your experience comes to you via thought. And that's so true in the you can't do that thought, isn't it? Because if you hear it and you believe it and you take it on board, the actions that follow are not going to be the actions that you originally thought you were going to do. If you get an inspired action to do something and then that thought says you can't do that, you won't do it. This morning I have written to my MP. That's something I've never done before. I was a head teacher for 5 years and I never wrote to my MP during that 5 years, much as there were many things I could have challenged the government about in terms of education. I didn't, but something has come up recently and I have decided to write to my MP. So this morning, before coming on this call, yes, I do get up very early, I have decided to write to my Member of Parliament, the person who represents me in my government. And it's really interesting because over time, the you can't do that thought, I think because I've given it less and less attention, it just doesn't really occur that much anymore. It probably still does. There are probably still things I am not doing. So I'm going to bring some awareness to that. You can do that too. Awareness of your thinking is not the same as paying attention to it. Awareness of your thinking is not the same as attaching and judgment and thinking you've got to do what it says. And the invitation in this conversation is always to look towards curiosity in that space, curiosity and bringing a little bit of awareness to what's going on. And that's always
the invitation.
Thank you so much for listening. There's nothing to do now but bring some awareness to how this is working out in your life. Listen regularly to experience longer and longer periods of calm. This has been the Calmcast with Claire Downham, Queen of Calm. Take care and keep listening.